Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the program Business Time. This is a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And in the program today, we look at Malawi's tourism sector performance as the country joins the rest of the world in commemorating the World Tourism Day. And also in the program, we look at the strides made towards addressing the forex and fuel shortages that have rocked the country's economy for quite some time. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome. This is Business Time and my name is William Mwembe. In our main story in the program today, on September 27th each year, Malawi joins the rest of the world in commemorating the World Tourism Day. It's been a month of many activities in as far as tourism is concerned. But one critical question that has lingered for years now is how can Malawi make its tourism sector become the next big thing as input to the GDP remains relatively low? This is a question our journalist Tabi Kamangala attempts in this report.
Malawi, a landlocked country, is located in the southeastern part of Africa. It shares borders with Zambia to the west, Tanzania to the north and northeast, and Mozambique to the east, south, and southwest. As of January 2021, Malawi had a population of over 19 million people. The country, touted as the warm heart of Africa for its people's warmth and cultural diversity, was ranked among world's top 10 must-visit destinations in 2022 by Lonely Planet, a world-leading travel guidebook publisher. The tourism sector, albeit being in its infancy stage, is seen as one of the magic wands for the relatively small-sized economy of Malawi. The freshwater mass of Lake Malawi, which is the fifth largest freshwater lake in the world by volume, the ninth largest lake in the world by area, and the third largest and second deepest lake in Africa, puts the country on the global map. The lake is also home for unique species of fish, including the famous jumbo. The country is equally endowed with other attractive natural beauty in its mountains, national parks, and game reserves. Alas, the tourism sector's input to the national economy remains minute, seen at about 5.8%. But what needs to be done to turn the sector into the next big thing? As Malawi grapples with an economic crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Russia-Ukraine war, experts believe the sector could change the country's fortunes if massive investment was made therein. In 2021, President Lazarus Chakwera started advocating the diversification of the economy beyond agriculture. Sectors to consider included mining and tourism. The government not only developed a national tourism policy, but also a national tourism investment master plan and provided grants amounting to 300 million kwacha to some industry players to help boost the sector. Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Culture is Michael Usi and explains strides registered this far.
We are aiming at repositioning ourselves, having been disturbed by COVID-19 and also wars. All these challenges have affected negatively the growth of tourism in this country. So as we are rethinking, we are relocating ourselves, repositioning ourselves, re-strategizing. That's the whole essence.
Economics expert Bechani Chereni said the tourism industry is a very important part of Malawi's economy, both international and domestic.
Tourism is a very important element to the economy of our country, especially that when we are looking at the international tourism. Of course, domestic tourism is also very important, but international tourism is what we focus on. Why? Because that's where we hope that we can get some additional foreign exchange to beef up our foreign reserves, which can of course help us to import commodities that we need so much, especially essentials. In the tourism industry, this is where a lot of people employed in the white-collar jobs, and therefore you employ a lot of people as well. Where it becomes a problem is when instead of tourism helping us, or tourism activities helping us to raise the revenues, especially in foreign exchange, it actually, you find that sometimes it milks us away of the foreign exchange that we earn. In particular, I have things like, when we invite big names in music to come and sing or perform in Malawi, we pay them huge sums of money in US dollars. We lose out. So the net effect is very important. Sometimes we report on tourism, especially regarding how much we have earned, but we forget also to look at how much we have also spent on tourism, especially in terms of the foreign exchange.
Each year in September, Malawi joins the rest of the world in celebrating Tourism Month. A million-dollar question remains: what mark would the country's tourism sector attain when it again joins peers in the commemoration of Tourism Month of next year?
Now, the tourism sector is one of the hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, which affected almost all sectors of the economy. As we are speaking, figures in as far as tourist inflow is concerned has been going down in the past 2 years. What is the country doing towards recovering the trends? Our journalist Chimwemwe Mangazi has the whole story.
Figures from the Department of Tourism show that the country recorded the total number of tourists visiting the country at 830,000 in 2017, which rose to 932,000 in 2018. The highest number of visitors coming to Malawi was recorded in 2019 when it reached 978,000 before a sharp drop in 2020 to 198,000. A country summary report published by the African Nature-Based Tourism Platform early this year further indicates that in 2019, the total contribution of the travel and tourism sector to the country's gross domestic products was 6.7%, and the sector provided close to 516,200 jobs. However, as a result of the COVID pandemic and restrictions, the total contribution to the GDP decreased to 3.2% in 2020 and also caused loss of 167,000 jobs in the travel and tourism sector. Justin Zinkambani is chairperson of the Tourism Council of Malawi.
Yes, we're coming off from the COVID-19 situation. But when we look at the business of the tourism industry, maybe around countries that are surrounding us, they're doing quite fine, much better than ourselves. What I'm seeing is that as Malawi, there is a lot that we might need to do in order for us to move quickly forward. Currently, I would be talking about our policies that are also deterring us from doing well in the tourism sector. These need to be looked at because we're using the old laws. And again, those laws they're affecting us a lot in the business.
And Zandi Kankuni, a senior lecturer, Faculty of Tourism at the Nzuzu University, weighs in his views.
So there's huge potential there, but there's a lot of work to be done so that we can really realize the gains that could be obtained from the tourism industry. So what happened with COVID is that it's just wiped the few or little gains that we were making, or the strides that we were making as a country. But I would like to think that in terms of polishing that gem, it starts from the product itself, the product development. So we have the product, a lot of attractions, natural, cultural, heritage, historic, what have you. The attractions are there, but they are still in their raw form. They're supposed to be enhanced, they're supposed to be polished up. So that is something that we can put on the market and say we would like to compete with our neighbors. That's number one. So we're talking about the product development, the investments that are there. Number two, we're talking about the infrastructure that is going to support the product. So we're talking about issues like accessibility, international accessibility, but also within the country. If you want to move to Nyika National Park, for example, people are going to complain about maybe issues of local or in-destination accessibility. Other than that, we're also talking about visibility of the country internationally, but also awareness of our people about tourism attractions. Maybe Chimwemwe will have something to say about that. We have a lot of attractions in the country, but you see that the people that have got money, the middle class that could travel, some of them are traveling outside the country, and there are some reasons, I'll explain that later. But there's an issue of awareness on that part, so that we can deliver the product that we develop, we have enhanced, and we deliver it to the market. So issues of infrastructure, issues of speed and awareness.
Deputy Director of Tourism Noah Nansongole says the government is aware of the various challenges affecting the industry and is employing solutions to sustain the industry.
We're looking at about over 35,000 people lost their job at the beginning of the COVID. So as it now, what is happening now, we are witnessing the recovery of the tourism sector. We are seeing that the figures have started going up, and also people are now, business is coming back, especially international tourism. But it will take a little bit of a while for people to start coming to Malawi. But in terms of domestic tourism, we are seeing some increases. When you look at the growth rate in the past 5 years of tourism, because I think sometimes when you make a statement, you need to substantiate it with facts.
Yes.
In around 2015, against that maybe 2016, 17, we had already hit 830,000 tourists.
Okay.
That was the international tourists that were coming to Malawi. And we were growing by 5%, almost 5%.
Every year?
Yes, every year. And in 2018, we received 932,000 international tourists. And in 2019, before COVID hit us, we had gone up to 978,000. So, which means we almost we're moving towards 1 million tourists in a way. So after COVID hit, in 2020, we went down to 198,000. So you can see that as I indicated, COVID affected us almost quite badly. So I think from the statistics that I've given, but also even in terms of income, the income that was registered in terms of receipts, this is not just it's just what the tourists spent when they came to Malawi. It was 107.8 billion Malawi kwacha. So this is the equivalent. We can actually calculate that by dividing up if you want to get it in a foreign currency. So this shows, that's why the statement that I made that we're doing okay, because we are looking at that statistics. But also when we start looking at the issues that also have been raised, that maybe in terms of product.
Tourism has been earmarked as one of the sectors having the potential to transform the country.
Remember, this is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. We'll be right back, and when we get back, our journalist Justin Kweu takes us to the streets to find out the situation in as far as fuel supply is concerned. That's when we get back inside Business Time. Welcome back. This is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And moving on with the program, the country has lately been experiencing long queues at filling stations due to scarcity of fuel. This is emanating from scarcity of forex, a resurgence of a situation that the country experienced in 2012. It's been weeks now. Our journalist Justin Kweu has been moving through the city of Blantyre to find out the situation, as stakeholders have been lamenting over the elevated levels of scarcity of fuel, while the government remains optimistic that the problem would be easing soon.
We are here in Nyambadwe, Blantyre. This place is filled with filling stations. There is one Meru filling station, there's a Puma filling station, there's a Simso filling station, then there's a Total Energy filling station. These filling stations, as of now, they do not have diesel. None of them has diesel. There's only one Meru filling station that has a line of vehicles that use diesel. And according to the people who are there, they have been told that a tanker is coming that is carrying diesel, and they are waiting online for diesel. Before we came here, we passed through other filling stations in Blantyre as well, such as the Petroda at Clock Tower. We also passed through the Kandodo Puma filling station, and we were also at Wenela Puma filling station. All these filling stations do not have diesel, they only have petrol. Now, how did we come here as a country? How did we reach this far? How did we reach at a point where we should be seeing lines of cars longing for diesel and only having diesel at some filling stations, not necessarily having in all filling stations? The General Manager for Petroleum Importers Limited, Martin Msumuko, explains how we arrived at this stage as a country.
I think if you ask me, coming from even previous interviews, we have always indicated that the equation to fuel availability into this country is always foreign exchange. Without adequate foreign exchange to finance for the procurement of fuel, we would not have the same in the country. And it has been the major source of problems in terms of procurement. So Forex is equal to fuel availability into the country. Starting from late last year, we have been having a challenge in terms of sourcing adequate instruments. We call them documentary letters of credit to give to our suppliers. The banks in Malawi have been limited in the amount of foreign exchange that can be available for them to issue those letters of credit to our suppliers, and therefore that has created this need that because there is little foreign exchange on the market, we are asked to reduce our requirements. So whereas we would be looking for a certain amount of money to buy the product, we are being limited by what is available on the market.
It is clear that the main reason for this is the forex shortage. The country has been grappling with a forex shortage which is used to import fuel. However, the Reserve Bank of Malawi insists that the problem is temporary. According to the Reserve Bank of Malawi Deputy Governor William Matambo, this problem will be sorted out as soon as possible. He told Times last week that government has secured enough and they have been dispersing money, forex that is, for the importation of fuel. But the situation on the ground tells a different story. As we said, all the filling stations that we passed through do not have diesel, only petrol. Aside from the Reserve Bank of Malawi assuring Malawians that there is enough forex that will be used to import fuel in the country, the Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority, MERA, also insists the same. It says that the problem is temporary and they have put in measures to make sure that the country does not run dry, even though for now the country has run dry of diesel. We spoke to MERA Chief Executive Officer Henry Kachaje, and here is what he said.
I would like to assure the nation and specifically the users of this particular product that all efforts are being taken to make sure that we get back to a situation where availability of these critical and essential products is restored to the original state. As we speak, we have intensified the loadings for petroleum products, specifically for diesel, so that the country gets well restocked. And looking at the volumes that are coming in, that have been loaded in Dar es Salaam and also in Beira, we are quite confident that the erratic supply situation is going to be addressed in the shortest period. Yes, indeed. When we do price reviews, we look at a number of factors, and when we do that kind of analysis, what we realized is that what qualified for a price change was petrol, while paraffin and diesel, the magnitude of change was within 5% and did not warrant for it to have its price reviewed. The price stabilization fund is building up, but it's a factor of volume as well. So because there is a levy which is put on the petrol price or diesel price, where every time somebody buys and that amount goes into the price stabilization fund. So when we are hit by low volumes of the product, whether petrol or diesel, then it means that the fund might not be collecting as much as we had anticipated. But we believe once the supply issues are addressed, we will get back to our normal projections of at least having, on average, about 2 billion or between 2 billion to 3 billion being raised for the price stabilization fund in a 30-day period. Well, as usual, we continue to closely monitor the prices on the international market. So far, we are of the view that the steep rise in prices that was experienced, especially between the months of April all the way to June, were more than the average that in many years it has risen. So we believe that though winter is coming, probably the escalation in prices is not going to be as steep as we had experienced in June.
Petrol, diesel, altogether fuel are one important aspect of the economy because they fuel the economy. The economy drives through them because it is only through trusted transportation that goods can move from one place to another, that people can move from one place to another. It is only until we have a stable supply of fuel that we will talk about economic growth this fiscal year. But if the situation remains the same, the economy, which has been slashed in its growth to 1.7% from the initial 4.1%, may be even slashed further.
Now, in other business news, CDH Investment Bank is celebrating 10 years of operations in the country. We caught up with Kwame Ahadzi, who is Chief Executive Officer for the bank, to find out how has the bank fared in the past decade and what the future holds.
Journey has been very sweet. I mean, we started in 2012 as you know, converting from a discount house to an investment bank. Now, we have done quite a number of deals with government, with private institutions, and with individuals. And over these 10 years, it's been massively great for us. And we have created value for these institutions. Oh, there are many opportunities. Look, we talk about these difficulties in the economy, but I know that there are several points of sweetness, what I call the bright spots or sweet spots in this country. Look, this country is endowed. If we just point to agriculture, for instance, I mean, we should be able to do a lot to improve our lot. We talked about soya. I mean, this country can grow soya enough to export and extract a lot of value. Even for sugar, I mean, we still don't have enough. We don't produce enough to feed ourselves. Okay, so there's a lot that we can do, especially in agribusiness. Now the government is talking about mega farms. You know, if you look at the small holder farms, they are not going to make a significant impact. It's only through mega farms that we can produce enough to feed ourselves and for export. I take the example of wheat. If you look at what is happening in the world today with the Russian-Ukraine war, for instance, wheat is not coming from Ukraine anymore. And so the countries in the northern regions of Africa, for instance, Egypt, doesn't have wheat to make bread. And they can't produce it. So what stops us from producing wheat in enough quantities to export?
Well, that interview also brings us to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Stay safe and bye for now.